Hey, I'm Creech and this is Creech and Cars, where I upload weekly videos about car news, history, and culture. Several months ago, I made a video about the MG Cyberster concept car, and I showed some leaked renderings, but this past April, the official production version was unveiled, and just this week, MG has revealed the interior and more official information, and this video will get you up to date on the production Cyberster. First, here's a brief overview. Today in America, MG is remembered for its fun, cheap roadsters, mainly the midget, sold in the United States from the 50s to the 70s. However, by 1980, the brand had to pull out of the US market, and it did continue to sell affordable sports cars in Europe until 2007. The brand was unable to survive the recession, and it was purchased by SAIC, which is a public Chinese automaker and is the largest car company in China. Since this acquisition, the MG brand has been selling subcompact and compact cars and SUVs in its home country of the UK and China, as well as some other Asian and South American markets. The brand currently sells ICE cars and EVs, but it is now returning to the sports car segment with a fully electric roadster called the Cyberster. In 2021, the Cyberster concept was revealed, and then this summer in 2023, MG has unveiled the production exterior and interior. So today I'll take you through the exterior and interior design, as well as the performance and mechanical specs. Finally, I'll talk about pricing and release date, and give my opinion on whether or not the Cyberster will be successful in the current roadster market. So let's take a look at the exterior design, starting with the front end, which features a dramatic dive with aggressive hood lines and the large octagonal MG logo. There are also nice and sporty looking side air curtains and a lower grille design, complemented by a partial splitter on each side. However, a lot of the vents you see are fake. The headlights have a nice design as well, with two opposing triangles serving as the daytime running lights and likely the turn signals as well, and then the headlight in between the triangles. The headlights and taillights are all LEDs. Moving around to the side, the design is simpler and very clean. The wheels are quite large with the fenders adapting around them, and this creates some nice body lines. Black rocker panels accent the red body color, and there is only a soft top, but buyers can choose between black or red fabric. The concept had scissor doors, and I assumed this wouldn't transfer to the production model, but it actually did, and the production Cyberster will feature scissor doors that you can see now. Past the driver's side door is the charging port, and it looks similar to a gas cap. Rounding out in the rear, I'm very glad to report that the design from the concept has carried over to the production version. This design features a light bar that makes a 90-degree turn at the tail light. The tail light itself is arrow-shaped, but it meets with the straight line to mimic the Union Jack, sort of like what Mini has been doing with its tail lights. Instead of the small wing found on the concept, we get a lip spoiler that forms out of the rear fender flare, with the Cyberster script to the right. The rear end dips in the middle and then flows around the license plate before finishing off with a sporty rear end diffuser. I think the exterior looks fairly high-end, and the high-end design carries over to the interior. The first thing you notice is of course the color. Nearly everything is the dark red or burgundy color, and I do like it. I think it looks very expensive, but I think with the red exterior that we've been shown, I would like to see some more contrast. There will be other color options of course, but the red on red is the press color option that MG is showing off. The concept had a yoke, but we can see a more traditional steering wheel here, and it is flat bottomed with some nice aluminum trim and lots of controls, including the red start and stop button. There are paddle shifters visible, but instead of shifting gears, this might be a control to give the car a boost of power like some other electric vehicles have done. Behind the wheel, there is a large curved screen that will contain a digital gauge cluster and infotainment screen, and while they are on the same piece of glass, they are two separate screens. The dashboard has a sporty driver-centric design theme, and in the center, below a row of buttons, there is the push-button gear selector, and to the right of that is a third screen. I believe this screen will be reserved for things like climate controls and maybe a few other settings. And below that you have physical buttons for operating the top, which is completely electronic. There are two decently sized cup holders, which isn't a given in proper roadsters. The door panels look nice as well, with silver trim seat controls and silver speaker covers. There's an electronic door popper, so while there aren't traditional door handles, there isn't some crazy way of opening the doors either, but just something similar to what the past few generations of the Corvette have used. And speaking of the Corvette, I feel like the overall dash design is similar to the C8's interior. Let me know if you can see that similarity as well. One last thing in the interior is the seats, which are trimmed in leather and have either suede or Alcantara inserts. The seats look very sporty but not uncomfortable either. Behind the headrest are aluminum roll bars that finish off a luxurious design overall. So while in many ways this is a return to MG's roots, it is markedly different in market position. I'll go over the pricing and competition later in the video, but it's clear from the design that this isn't a Miata competitor. But does it have high-end performance to match the high-end looks? Like I mentioned earlier, the Cyberster will only be sold with an electric powertrain, meaning it will be heavier than gas rivals. The Cyberster has a curb weight of 4,376 pounds, and comparing it to something like the BMW Z4, the Z4 is over 800 pounds lighter at 3,535 pounds. The Cyberster is also about 8 inches longer than the Z4 and almost 2 inches wider. Part of the size increase is to accommodate a battery. Obviously, a larger battery equals longer range, but even though it's bigger than some of the competition, it can only manage around 270 miles per charge. While this isn't groundbreaking, if you don't plan on going on longer road trips, this range figure isn't terrible at all. The heavier weight will be offset by the torque from the liquid-cooled induction motors. The base trim will have one motor producing about 300 horsepower with a top speed of 120 miles per hour. The mid-level trim will keep the same rear axle mounted motor, but up the horsepower to 335. And finally, the top trim level will add another motor to the front axle, which will help the total output exceed 500 horsepower and increase the top speed to 124 miles per hour. There is no official 0 to 60 time, but it should be around 3 seconds for that top trim. The Cyberster should ride on the Nebula platform, which is currently used by the MG4 hatchback. This means that there should be the option for either a 64 kilowatt hour battery pack or a 77 kilowatt hour battery pack, and both will support up to 800 volt charging. As far as pricing goes, the Cyberster is obviously more expensive than MG Roadsters of the past. The European spec model will start around 55,000 pounds, which is around $70,000, so right up there with the BMW Z4, 718 Boxer, and Audi TT. However, in China, the car will cost around 300,000 yuan, which is only around 42,000 US dollars. Deliveries are projected to begin next summer in 2024. So that's all you need to know about the Cyberster, but will it be successful? Well, certainly the best thing about the Cyberster is the lack of EV Roadsters that are currently on the market. Really, the only other option buyers would have is the original Tesla Roadster, which is rare to begin with and 15 years old now. If the Cyberster is delivered on time a year from now, it could face some competition, but there are very few EV Roadsters that we know could come to market soon, and none of them are anywhere near the price point of the Cyberster. So this is of course a great advantage, but I think a lot of the viability of this car will depend on how it drives. Roadsters aren't fun because of huge power numbers, they're fun because they are light and easy to drive on curvy roads, but with a heavy torquey powertrain, it's hard to imagine the Cyberster driving like a typical Roadster. However, this is something we'll just have to wait and see how it drives. While MG is seeing a decent volume of these Cybersters being sold in the UK and other European countries, the main market is China. And unlike the US, China does have electric sports cars available on the market, most notably the Chantu K50, which is a 4-motor, 400 horsepower coupe that can be bought for the equivalent of around $100,000, and it is quite popular. While larger cars and SUVs dominate the luxury market, as they do in the US and elsewhere, I think the Cyberster is priced very well to attract young buyers who want a high-end looking sports car with solid performance. I hope you enjoyed this video. That's everything you need to know to get up to date on the MG Cyberster. If you like videos like this, consider checking out the other videos on the channel and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.